Have you noticed you haven't seen a lot in the news lately about the January 6th proceedings? Well, that's because the news has not been good for the Justice Department, especially the prosecutors and the judges who have completely overstepped their guidelines and the law in prosecuting so many of the people who were involved in the events that day. But I know what's going on because I read Julie Kelly's great new Substack. It's called Declassified with Julie Kelly, and she joins us now. Julie, thank you for being here. Congratulations on the new venture.
Thanks so much, Larry. Thanks for having me on, as always.
So the other day there was an appeals process in appellate court, and it did not go well for the judges in the Justice Department. Tell me what happened.
That's right, a rare victory for justice and fairness in terms of how the laws are applied. As we know, this DOJ and federal judges in D.C. have weaponized laws such as obstruction of an official proceeding, seditious conspiracy, and the most common misdemeanor, which is parading in the Capitol, a petty offense that the chief judge of the D.C. District Court admitted federal courts rarely deal with, but yet they're dealing with hundreds of parading convictions and plea deals. Then what they've been doing in addition to that, Larry, is imposing excessive sentences for this petty offense. Judges have, at the behest of this DOJ, have imposed what's called a split sentence, incarceration and probation for these individuals who have pleaded guilty or been convicted of parading. So what happened was one January 6th defendant appealed his split sentence, and the D.C. Circuit Court came back with a pretty harsh ruling condemning both the DOJ and the D.C. federal courts for intentionally, flagrantly violating federal sentencing guidance, which says you can either impose incarceration or probation, but not both, especially for a Class B misdemeanor like parading in the Capitol.
Yeah, and it's to say they've been overzealous is kind of understating it. It's been outrageous what we've seen here and what you've documented, Julie. And I know that there have been hundreds and hundreds of charges already put forth. Are there still people who are waiting to have their official day in court, that they're still being incarcerated without having a day in court?
Yes, can you believe it? I know of at least a few defendants who have now been held, denied bail for more than 2.5 years, awaiting trial as the DOJ.
Oh, looks like
people like Ryan Samsel.
I'll tell you what, we're going to reconnect with Julie Kelly in a moment because it's too important not to have this conversation. But I do want to talk a little bit about what you're hearing right now in the news. There was an article written by some law professors that said because of the January 6th insurrection and the charges against President Trump, well, President Trump is ineligible for running for president because of the 14th Amendment. You know, you can't hold federal office if you're guilty of insurrection. But let's pick it up right there, Julie Kelly. As far as you know, with the hundreds, in fact, I think it was 1,000 people now, a little over 1,000 who were arrested from January 6th. Has anyone actually been charged with insurrection?
No, no one has been charged. And you're right, 1,100 defendants now. No one has been charged with insurrection. Roughly less than 24 have been charged with this seditious conspiracy. But no, that's why to call it an insurrection, I write in my piece on my Substack, they should call it a parade instead of an insurrection, right, because that is the most common charge that's been levied against January 6th defendants.
So if you buy into the fact that this happened because of Donald Trump's management or planning or inspiration, that he led this thing, he would really be guilty of leading a parade. An illegal parade, but a parade nonetheless. But how can you say that Donald Trump is guilty of leading an insurrection when none of the people actually arrested that day have been charged with insurrection?
That's right. Well, because it's all this carefully crafted, as you know, media and Democratic Party narrative. The term insurrection, the word insurrection, was planted that afternoon by the news media, by people like Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who was posting that on Twitter, by Joe Biden, who at 4 o'clock Eastern time, when things were still going on at the Capitol, referred to this as an insurrection. But here we are now, more than 2.5 years later, no one charged with insurrection, but yet parading. Yeah. And Larry, that is not a cue for you to start singing show tunes.
Before
the
parade passes by does come to mind, or don't rain on my parade, but I will ignore the impulse. Julie, the one time when I try to engage with people about January 6th, people have very passionate feelings about this. once in a while I can get somebody to come around to the idea. It's like, okay, yes, it wasn't as bad as the media says, and yeah, you know, some of these people, they're being overcharged. But those Proud Boys, now that's different. They're just set and determined that the Proud Boys who were arrested that day really were the rebels. They were the ones who were causing the insurrection. So what goes with the Proud Boys? Because based on your reporting, there was an FBI plant in the middle. There was a federal informer right there surrounded by the Proud Boys.
Oh, there were at least a few. Larry, during the seditious conspiracy trial, which I covered, the government had to stipulate, meaning admit at least 8 FBI informants had been run into the Proud Boys. During cross-examination of one government witness, the defense got them to admit there were more than a dozen. There could have been up to 20 FBI informants embedded not just in this group, but in these group chats that were then used as evidence against the Proud Boys. Look, say what you want about the Proud Boys. None of them brought weapons to the Capitol. None of them were charged with assaulting police officers. One of them you could see on surveillance video walking through an open door with 4 or 5 Capitol police officers standing right there. We still don't have answers about the total number of not just FBI informants, but undercover agents from multiple departments, including DC Metro, Secret Service, Capitol Police, and the FBI, who were involved. People who see these scenes, and I have one of these on my Substack from a few weeks ago, who see these scenes of violence or chaos or instigating, we know that some of them are undercover agents and FBI informants. So the Proud Boys now, DOJ coming back and asking for 20 to 33 years in prison for seditious conspiracy convictions. This is an egregious selective political persecution that no one should support, but of course half the country does.
What do we know about Michael Jones in particular? You name him in your article, and has the FBI or any federal agency actually confirmed that Michael Jones, this person you name, was in fact an informant?
There has been some reporting that has confirmed it. As I say, I have on my Substack video of him outside and inside the Capitol breaking multiple laws. He's on video everywhere, including near our buddy Ray Epps and inside the Capitol. The big tell that he is an FBI informant is that the DOJ and FBI has the video of him, and he still has not been charged with a single crime for January 6th, because the FBI informants are allowed to commit crimes in pursuit of keeping up their front as an informant, and they are never charged. And there's Michael Jones right there.
See, but this is incredibly important, Julia, because if I'm a defendant in this case, and there's video of this guy who's an FBI agent, or informant, I should say, and he's instigating violence, and he's breaking the law, and clearly he's getting away with it, well, that sends a message to me that I can do the same thing. Now, that's not saying my behavior is right, but if my behavior was guided by, inspired by, encouraged by a guy who was put there by the FBI and who gets a get-out-of-jail-free card, that feels like entrapment.
It absolutely is entrapment. And I think a few defendants have actually filed entrapment defense motions that have, of course, gone nowhere, because the DOJ, thanks to also DC federal judges, have really covered up successfully the role that these informants have played. And again, not just the informants, we have seen on video undercover DC Metro police officers dressed like Trump supporters, acting like Trump supporters, chanting with the group, leading people up to that West Terrace onto the scaffolding. So it's not even that, they are entrapping, they're acting like it, they're provoking, to your point, these actions, but yet not a single judge has said, wait a second, we need more information about what all of these bad actors were doing to either lure these people in or make it look like they were Trump supporters on these videos and optics that say the January 6th Select Committee produced. And that's why people like who you're talking to think that the Proud Boys were solely responsible for the attack on the Capitol, tried to overthrow the government, but have no idea the deep role that several agencies played in provoking and promoting that narrative.
Well, and it's because the television networks that they watch don't tell them. The viewers there are woefully uneducated and misinformed. That's why we enjoy having you on. Thank you so much, Julie Kelly. I appreciate you joining us. And again, it's Declassified with Julie Kelly. That's the Substack, and get on over there. I know I'm part of it. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight. This is the Salem News Channel.